Welcome all to this channel. In this video we are going to talk how to create a Laravel project and install the Yajra DataTable using VS Code editor. So first I open my folder. This is my folder. Now I'm open my PowerShell window. So this is my PowerShell window. I create the command from this my PowerShell window. So let's create our project first. I use composer command. Composer create project Laravel -Laravel and my project name. I name my project here data table and press enter. Now we can see here our project is been created. So we have to wait until this project is complete. So now you can see here our project has been created. Now all done our project. CD my project name, I name it here data table and press enter. Now we can run our project. I run this project using PHP artisan serve command used for run our project. I open my browser and run my project. Localhost 8000. This is our Laravel port. So all the things has been done. Now we can install the Yajra. So let me install the Yajra now. Composer require Yajra /Laravel -data tables and press enter. Sorry, there is some error. So reason invalid argument, could not find the package Yajra Laravel DataTables. So I have to copy my Laravel plugin here. Let me copy this. So I use here. Composer require Yajra -Laravel and DataTables and press enter. Now our package has been updated. So we can see here on our VS Code editor there's a vendor package. Inside this there's a Yajra folder. All the packages related to the Yajra DataTable consist on this folder. So we have to wait until this process has been done. So our project has been created successfully, which means our Yajra package has been created successfully. Now we can go to our config file. We need to change the settings of our config file. I go to my config file. I open the app.php file. Now we can change the settings. I use additional provider which related to our Yajra DataTable. So let me change it. I use Yajra, which means our package name, and DataTable service provider, double colon, and extended class. So this is our provider component, and below the aliases section we need to additionally add that. So I use that part. We can use that using this code, and I use DataTable, Yajra DataTable service provider, double colon, and class. So now we have to move again our PowerShell window. Now we can add separate code, separate command. So I use it as a PHP artisan vendor colon publish double dash provider equal double quote. I go to my VS Code and I get my provider, this code line, and I open my PowerShell window and I paste it here, and I remove this part. We need only this part, Yajra DataTable service provider only, and I close the colon, double quote, and press enter. So our publishing has been complete. So we can create a controller. Now I create the controller, PHP artisan make colon controller. My controller name, I use it as a data controller, and press enter. Our controller has been created successfully. Let me go to my VS Code editor. And I open my controller. I go to a file folder and HTTP folder. Inside that, available our controller. I open my controller. So now I'm going to create my page load. I create the function called index. Close the function. Return view. This is my view folder name, view file name. So I use this file as a data set. So I go to my view folder. I use resources, I go to the folder and create folder and create a file, new file I create database dataset.blade.php. So I remove this part. This is our default page, so I remove this file. Now we can go to our route folder. I use the web.php. Now I can create a new route here. So I create new route here, route double colon get my directory is app backslash app backslash and http backslash. Let me go to my controller. I need to copy this my controller name and I use it here, paste it and add sign and index name or index function. This function we call to our web file. So now we can run our project. Let me change the content first. I use the HTML content, press H1, test page. So we can run our project now. I open my PowerShell, PHP artisan. So oh, there's error, index not exist. So let me go to my code again. I will check this. Route get app http controller backslash data controller index. Oh, sorry, this is my bad. Index. Okay, our page has been created successfully. Now we can add our plugins and design our data table. So first I create my migration page. So I use my code again. I open my PowerShell window. I create my model, PHP artisan make model, my model name, data model -n. So our model has been created successfully. Now we can go to our file. Let me go to file. I open the model folder. There's available data model here. Now we can go to our databases, available migration. So you can create it. Our migration has been created successfully. Create data model. Now I open that one, and I'm going to change the content of this data model. Now we can use our database content, I use the record ID as increments and tables, and second table I use the first name, and second column, third column I use the last name, and also the fourth and fifth columns I use email and is active status. So the email, it should be the unique, and record ID also increment, and the activity status should be the integer value, which means we use the one value for the active status, so it should be the default one. So normally it came with one value, so I use that one. Then we can migrate our data, create our database and migrate our table. So I go to my env file, I created the database name, I remove this one, I create new database name, I use the project underscore Laravel. So let me go to my database. Here's my database. Now I can create my database name. Here I use the project Laravel. So our database has been created successfully. Now we can migrate our table. So I use PHP artisan, migrate command, and press enter. So there is some issue. Let me fix that. I refresh my browser again. Our table has not been completed yet, so I use the this is actually the syntax error related to the access violation. So now I use the truncate command for find my table db. Table has been dropped successfully. Now I migrate again. Again I wipe my table. So I use a PHP artisan db :wipe and press enter. Okay, all the things have been done. Now I will again migrate my table. PHP artisan migrate. So this error has been resolved. The reason is we have to use this code line. schema double colon default string length, it should be 191, and we have to call it on our namespace. Use eliminate and support facade and schema. I use this code line because and it solved my error. So there is some issue regarding when we insert our data table, so which means create our table. So that's why this issue. So let me go to my database and I refresh it again. Okay, our table has been created success. Let me open it. So here is the structure of my database. The record ID, which is auto increment, and this is a primary key, and first name available, last name available, email it should be unique, and activities it should be the status. We pass the status which is 1 or 0. Now I am going to my view file and I open my view. Now we're going to change our content. So let me first I copy this line from our meta tag. I use meta tag name equal CSRF token, and content also double curly bracket consist on CSRF token as a method. So let me change my title name data table, and here I use the bootstrap content. I use the bootstrap for. Let me copy links. I use the bootstrap for link, and let me go to copy the data table CSS plugin link. Don't worry for this all CSS link and plugins, so I will put it on in my description box, so you can download them all. And here's my script tags, so I paste it on the header section. So guys, we normally use the script tags on our before the body end, so I use it here for just now. I use the script tag for Ajax library jQuery 3.5.3 version 0 version I used, and I use the data table min.js version. Version is 1.10.21 version I have used, and also we have used jQuery data table min.js version, and there's the bootstrap 4 version for data table. So I go to my body section and I create the container div.container margin top, it should be like 3, and I create the jumbotron div.jumbotron, and bg should be dark and text will be white, and I use the padding which is 3. Sorry, padding should be 3. Now I use the h2 tag. Inside this I use the Laravel Yajra DataTable. So I'm going to create the table here, table stripped table dash border and background light will be light. So table class look like table, table is table and table border, and there's also I use the jumbotron one and background light. So let me go to create this style. For that I use the width which equal to 100%, and ID I use is the table, my table 23. This is my ID of my table. So let me add some test data for here. Don't worry for this, I will remove all the things. This is for test data for testing purpose. Now I refresh my build. Sorry, I need to run my project again. PHP artisan. So all the things has been done now. So there's issue in my container, so I change this container. The reason is okay, all the things has been done. There's issue in my container typing, the syntax missing. So all the things has been done now. So this is our a table look like this. So we need to create our model and code inside the controller. So I remove this content, I remove the table head 2 and table footer. So I write my script here. I use the document read function. And here I call my table. Let me cross the bracket. Our entire data is going through this DataTable function. So this is the table ID, table 23. I use the table ID for here. So before create the DataTable, I need to go my table model model folder, and I open my model, data model. So in here I use protected $table which equal to my database table. So let me go to my database. I copy this name, so I paste it here. Let me go to my controller. So I create a function inside here. Function get data into table. So I use the parameter two parameter use, which is a request min, and I use the provider use here. So the name below the namespace, the package.db package, and I use the Yajra DataTable for my controller, and also my table model. So go to my table model, data model. So all the things I've done now. Let me create my function now. So I use the if condition, and I give the request to Ajax. I create the object here for my model, and then I create a variable and get my database, and which is double colon used for get my table. My table name is so I return data table double colon of my data table. So I use the additional command code for here. This is at index column, and also the tilt function here. This is for at column, and this is for at index column. For this the content is going on through the action, so which means we need to delete some user or update some user record. So all the function and on click events are going inside this function. So additionally I use row column, which is equal to action, which consists on action, and make inside the callback true. So this is our function here. This is a little bit complex, and so this is my style. So I use this code structure like this. So let me go to our view folder, and I open my view. Now we can create our data table process file. So I create the processing, which is equal true, and I use the small function for setting.json. So this I use the init complete, which is a function for I use the parameter settings and JSONs. So which is equal to my table, and I use it for show in my table. So additionally I use server side, which is true, and select also true, and data source equal to data table data, and be destroy, which is true. So these are the most necessary component for our data table, so don't remove anything. So we have to use the all components and all codes line. So our table content goes through inside this array. So I will explain it later. So let me set the other commands. So I use the language part here. So all done now. Now we have to call our URL. So I use the URL here, get data table. Now I go to my web.php file, create a new route, I comment it here, I go to my controller, get this function, so I use this command for get data table here. I use these functions. For get data table means our Ajax request. So I pass the URL, I copy this here and paste it on my web.php file, the new route, and this one is our controller function. So this is our controller function and I copy it here and I paste it here. So all the things has been done now. We have to pass our data. Let me run project again. How does it look? There will be some Ajax error. There's nothing since we remove the table. So now I link my table data, my table content into our data table. So let me copy this one. My data table first content is the record ID. So I get the record ID as data and name. So let me copy. I use it here, data colon record ID, name colon record ID, title also call record ID. Then I use my first name. First name means our table consists on data, which is equal first name, and name also request name. This should be the first name. And here I use the last name. Here I use the name. Now we can add our active part, active status. So active status, which means we maintain the status the user is active or deactive. So let me copy that part. I use the jQuery function. This is a small function. I use the data is active status, name also active status, the title is the user is active. Check the active status, and I use the mrender function, which is passed to our data. The data which is equal 1, the user is active. If the data is equal 0, which means that the data table value is 0, the user is deactive. So this is the process of our file and our data table. Now all the things are done. Let me run my project. use the PHP artisan serve command, and if some error we can check using our there's some error in our syntax, so we have to fix that one. So this is the issue. Actually, I will check this out. Sorry for that. I need to add the column content. So the inside the column content we use the array. Inside the array we use our table data. So let me run it again. Now we can check our table is sure or not. So there's not any error. So status has been passed like a 200, which means our table data coming without any error. So all the things has been done. So our table look like this. Now we can add some data. So all the things has been done in our project. I have already uploaded some values for our data table. So let's run our project again. So all data has been filled successfully. So we can let me change the status value. I use the status value 0, and let me change another one. I get it 0. So let me change the 0. So I change the 3 values to 0. You can see here, if some active status equal 1, the user has been active. If the active status equals 0, the user has been deactivated. So this is the way of our project. And let me sort this table ascending and descending order. So all the things are working good. Okay, all the things are working good. So this is our data table working, and let me search some value. I use the and paste. So value is selected. So let me type something. I use the Harry Potter. So all value are sorted and filtering data success. So actually guys, this is the way of our project, and how this is the Yajra table we are using. And so if this video is helpful for you, you can subscribe me.